Welcome to the Craft of Coaching podcast, where we dive into what it truly takes to become a skilled, confident life coach. I'm your host, Kate, head of the CLCC, or Certified Life Coach Collective, an ICF-Accredited Level 1 coach training program. We combine courage, coaching, and community to offer you more than just a training program, but a life-changing experience where you use your own personal transformation as the learning ground for supporting your clients. On this podcast, we explore how you can use coaching skills to support your clients or expand your own growth, all grounded in evidence-based coaching practices. Learn more about our program and get free resources for becoming a life coach at teamclcc.com. And now, here's today's episode. Hey, everybody. This podcast is the craft of coaching, which means that we really focus on coaching as craft, and I don't want to get into too much of the marketing aspect of things. If you're interested in learning all the things that I have done to market my business, you certainly are welcome to check out a digital program that I offer. That program is called The Coaching Blueprint, and it's at coachingblueprint.com. And that is my program where I talk about all of the things that, from here's how I think about pricing your coaching, here's how I think about sales pages, here's how I think about, and on and on and on, the nitty gritty of marketing, particularly for new and emerging coaches. Now, I'm differentiating that program from what today will be about because it's always been very important to me that this podcast is about the craft of coaching and really looking at what it takes to be a coach, what it looks like to evolve the skill set, what it takes to continue to be in this profession, and the things that you face as a professional coach. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of marketing strategy. And yet I also recognize that if you don't have money coming in the door, you don't have a coaching business. So what today's podcast episode is going to go over are more of the things that go into running a coaching business, but from a what is the mental game kind of a place. Because there are some game-changing moves that I have made that felt really, really difficult to make at the time. And they were tied to things for my business, but a lot of the work was internal. And I feel very fortunate for all the different places and spaces and pieces of support that I received. But I gotta be honest, I often have found that there's a real void around talking about the inner game of being an entrepreneur, what it really takes to go within yourself and face the ups and the downs and the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and really look at what the mental game is of being an entrepreneur. So today's podcast episode will be about the game-changing moves that I've made, the things that I did that have not only moved my life forward personally, but I have directly seen how making these moves has moved my life forward professionally as a coach. They've been really important for upping the financial ROI of my business. They've been really important for expanding the capacity that I have. Because I got to tell you, when I first started as a coach, and I hear people who are trainees or graduates of the Courageous Living Coach certification as they are first starting out as a coach, there's some level of how do you have the capacity to do all those things? How do you have the capacity to run an ICF-Accredited life coach training program and be a speaker and do corporate facilitation and coaching training work in corporate and host 2 podcasts and write blog posts and work on your book? And you see where I'm going with this? And I'm not at all intending to do a resume drop with that list. That list is just the reality of my professional life. That list is also needing to go in tandem with the reality of my personal life, which is that I'm a wife, that I'm a mother, that I'm navigating the pandemic, just like all of you are, that I'm navigating being in a world where I want to take time to examine what it means that I'm cisgender and white and how those privileges play out in my life and who else doesn't have those privileges and how I can show up better for those people? Who am I as a citizen of the world, in essence? There's so many different facets to who we are. And how do I not get completely overwhelmed with all of that? Some of it is for sure time management strategies, things like that. These are topics I have talked about a couple of times on the Craft of Coaching podcast. Today, it's going to be about the game-changing moves. And I'm thinking here of game-changing moves that have to do with the mental game of being an entrepreneur. And all of these are moves that I really had to be conscious about making. So my invitation to you is to say to yourself right now, how bad do you want this? How bad do you want a coaching career where you are not only making money to support yourself, but you also feel fulfilled by the work and you don't feel drained by it all the time? There are certainly rough patches in every career. I am not painting a flowery picture as if I've got some kind of answer for the universe. But you can absolutely get to a place where 80% of the time, things are pretty good in all those categories of your life and your business. And so let's get started with talking about what those game-changing moves have been. Here we go. The first game-changing move that I believe I made was setting up positive constraints. Positive constraints. More practically speaking, deciding this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm committed to. I understand that I'm doing these things for a very specific purpose and a very specific reason, and I'm done with the excuses. And this was a decision that I made. It was very clear to me, and you might be sitting in your business right now going, I'm really clear that I am over here and I want to be over there, and I'm not sure how to get from here to there. And I'm telling you, positive constraints, where you make a decision about what you will or will not do, will or will not tolerate, will or will not engage in. When you define those things for yourself and for your business, you will be moving yourself forward. So one of the first positive constraints that I set up, and you will find the theme of positive constraints going through all of these, is setting annual and quarterly goals. And then sitting down once a week with my schedule and asking myself what I have on my plate in terms of appointments, and then what are the specific action steps that I'm going to do that are going to move me closer this week to the quarterly goal that I want to hit 3 months from now. Full stop. I sit my butt down and I make annual goals. And then once a quarter, I sit my butt down like it's an appointment and I set quarterly goals. And once a week, I sit my butt down and I look at what my week is and I find the space for some kind of action step in the direction of those quarterly goals. Now, I used to be someone who would go, I just can't stick to a planner. I start a planner. I have a goal. I don't know. I'm a Sagittarius. I need lots of creative freedom. Starts to feel, I had every excuse in the world. And, I'm not putting any judgment on anybody else about why you, a listener, maybe do or don't stick to a planner or any of that stuff. But for me, it was 100% excuse. It was an excuse. And I had to ask myself, how badly do you actually want this? Because willy-nilly all over the place, if I feel like it doesn't cut it. It just doesn't cut it. So setting annual goals, quarterly goals, and then weekly, sitting down and actually consciously designing my week. And I have plenty of things in my week that I would prefer not to do. I would prefer not to do my laundry. I'm just like you. There are things in my schedule that are a total pain in the ass. But it is non-negotiable for me now to avoid attending to those larger annual goals that are broken down into quarterly goals that are then broken down into what am I doing this week to move myself towards my quarterly goal? Accountability. It's non-negotiable. Another thing that I do that is a positive constraint is two things, really, meditation and exercise. And I say it's a positive constraint because it's a decision I've made that these are the things that I do. Now, meditation and exercise, you might be thinking to yourself, how does that move your coaching business forward? How does that make you a better coach? Well, I'll start with meditation. Of course, by now, you've read an article at some point, because they've all gone mainstream, about how meditation is beneficial for so many things. Meditation is beneficial for sleep. It's beneficial for critical thinking. It's beneficial for energy levels. It's beneficial for stress levels. It's beneficial for immune system level. It's so beneficial in so many ways. How many people do you need to tell you that meditation is beneficial before you're going to make it a part of your daily life? That's basically the place I arrived. Like, how many people do you need to hear it from before it's like, all right. I need to do this meditation thing, and I need to do it daily, and I need to stop saying to myself, well, I don't have time. I don't feel like it. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. I did it yesterday, so maybe I could no. Meditate. Just do it. And there's so many different forms of meditation that are out there. I am now a meditation teacher, actually, for the Insight Timer app. It is a completely free app. If you go download the Insight Timer app after you listen to this, I'm not going to get an affiliate kickback. Go do the Insight Timer thing. It's free. There are paid options. I'm a teacher there. And there are so many different styles of meditation. There's like awareness meditation, cognitive behavioral meditation, Adyashanti meditation, yoga meditation, insomnia meditation. I mean, like, there's so many different types of meditation. There's got to be something in that app that you're really going to like. So meditation, it has so many benefits. I can't perform at a level of being able to hold space for as many people as I hold space for without some place that is like a touchstone for going within. And for me, that is daily meditation. Personally, I do it in the morning. I like it as a way to set my day, but that's another thing that I would invite people to play with. Move out of this idea that if you're going to regularly meditate, it has to look a certain way. Move out of this idea that if you're going to regularly meditate, you have to get up at 4:30 in the morning and meditate for a half an hour, and it has to be an elaborate ritual or ceremony. It's like, you can meditate any time. Pick your time and stick to it. Second thing that has become a positive constraint in my life is exercise. Exercise, it is the same thing for me. How many people need to tell you that exercise is beneficial before you'll do it? That's what I said to myself. Exercise improves your cortisol levels. And of course, that is what really can throw stress and adrenals and a whole lot of other things out of whack. Exercise helps you sleep better. Exercise boosts your serotonin levels. It makes you happier. Exercise is a huge catharsis. And again, I want to operate in my life from a space of really holding capacity for other human beings. And by holding capacity, what I mean, the way I take that on is, it's not just private one-on-one clients I'm holding capacity for. It's also the 53 people who joined the Courageous Living Coach certification in the past year. I'm holding space for them. I'm very aware of what is happening for each of those individuals in their lives. I don't know every detail of their lives. It is a professional training program, not a stalker program, but I know a lot about what they're navigating with the ups and downs, and I'm thinking about that. I'm also holding space for our team. The Courageous Living Coach certification has a leadership team comprised of lead and mentor coaches, and I'm thinking of them, holding space with them, checking in with them. And then I've got the team that I work with behind the scenes to help me run my business. And then there are friends. I'm in 2 mastermind groups. There are friends that I hold space for. There's a lot of holding space with other people as they are going through their lives, thinking about what they're up to and how I want to be in connection with them. If I am stressed out, I can't do that optimally. Exercise helps me to do that optimally. Specifically, what exercise? I'm bananas about CrossFit. I've actually read quite a bit of research about CrossFit's impact on insulin levels, metabolic function, things like that. I think those are some great benefits. And perhaps one of my favorite things about recommending CrossFit to other people is that it's free. Yes, if you want to go join a gym, not advisable during a pandemic, by the way, but if you want to go join a gym, you can, or you can go to CrossFit.com or Google CrossFit workout of the day, and there will be so many websites that'll pop up. You don't need a bunch of fancy equipment to do CrossFit. You can do CrossFit if you do some push-ups, some sit-ups, some lunges, some air squats. Like, you don't have to have a barbell and plates. Personally, I have really drank the CrossFit Kool-Aid. I'm in. I got a home gym at this point that I've slowly built up over time. I've got barbells, I've got plates, I've got med balls, I've got what's called an assault bike, which is a particularly lovely torture device, aka very incredible bike that will have you feeling really good. But in essence, exercise of some kind. If your exercise is you take walks, bravo. Okay? If your exercise is that you do 50 push-ups a day, great. That works too. This thing of like trying to find the right exercise, the right meditation, stop. No, let's let ourselves out of that kind of insanity and just go ahead and embrace. I need to do something that is a presence-based practice, and I need to do something to blow off steam and get a sweat on. Meditation, exercise. And in my own life, I've made them non-negotiable. I don't do the thing anymore. Well, I worked out yesterday. No, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I work out. That's how this goes. The train is leaving the station and Kate is on it on the way to her workout. Not really, but metaphorically. You get what I'm saying. So it's a positive constraint. By the time I've made the decision that this is what I'm doing and this is how I do life and this is how it's going to be, there's no room for negotiation. Meditation and exercise will help you manage entrepreneurial stress. It will help you with better decision making. It will help you with critical thinking with your clients. It will stabilize your moods. It will stabilize your sleep. It will help in your personal life. Highly recommend it. All right. Next game-changing move that I made for my coaching business, I'm going to bring in a book. It was recommended to me by some other coaches, and I'm so grateful for this book. And it is called The E-Myth Revisited. The E-Myth Revisited. Why was this book so helpful for me? Well, it will lead you through an exercise, in essence, of defining the different business roles that are within your business. So when I first read this book, I was trying to figure out how to scale, how to do more with my business, yet obviously there are some constraints around time. And I couldn't necessarily hire anyone at that point. And frankly, I didn't even know how I would hire because I was doing everything. I was the one who was the tech person handling all the website stuff, the art director coming up with what the graphics were going to look like, the copy editor writing all the things that were going to be said when a social media post was promoted. I was also the coach. I was also the financial person checking to make sure that invoices were paid. And there was a kind of overwhelming feeling, I was very overwhelmed by the idea of figuring out how, like if I was going to hire a virtual assistant, where was I even going to start? How was I going to train a virtual assistant to do all the different things that I was doing? The E-Myth Revisited helped me to clarify that. It walked me through an exercise in which I sat down and defined all the different roles within my company, even though I was not ready to hire for any of those roles, because at the time I did not have the money to hire for any of those roles. But it actually had me sit down and go, okay, what are the responsibilities of a marketing specialist, a financial person, et cetera, et cetera. And in the process of defining all those different roles within the company, it became clearer to me how I would hire out, how I would evaluate performance if I hired a contractor and, gave me the ability to be able to say, oh, okay, I've got these metrics here. If I were to hire a copy editor right now, I would be able to tell you whether or not that person was performing in alignment with what the job is intended to do. Because that was another area of stress, by the way. The idea that when I finally had enough money, or if I did have enough money, then not knowing how to assess or manage people was another stress point. So then that kept me from hiring anyone. So then that kept me in the cycle of doing everything myself. Now, if you are a brand new coach and you're not making any money, and that's still something that you're developing, you got to make the money before you start doing the hiring. That's in my opinion anyway. I certainly know that of coaches who get loans and things like that to get those things going. And for me, that was not something I was ever comfortable taking on because that felt like financial stress. But even if you have the money or you don't have the money, like knowing what these roles are is enormously beneficial. It also became easier for me to manage my time because what I started to think about as I was managing my time was, okay, today I'm going to put 2 hours into the marketing role. Today I'm going to put 2 hours into the financial role. Today I'm going to put 2 hours into the creative director role. So it really helped me to have less of that flow to a day where I was doing a little bit of everything, which also was feeling a little bit overwhelming. And it helped me to get my time focused. So highly recommend that book as one that any coach in any stage of development would benefit from looking at and actually completing the exercises. And this is not something I was intending to say when I was writing down my notes for what I wanted to share in today's podcast. But by the way, game-changing move for your coaching business. And I actually instituted a little rule for myself at one point. No buying of books unless I'm going to use the books. Like, if you're not going to read the Seth Godin book on marketing, don't buy it. If you're not going to read, I don't mean intentions. I mean, if you are not buying that Seth Godin book and also saying to yourself, I'm going to read a half hour every morning, that's how I'm going to know that I'm going to read this book, don't buy the book. Because otherwise you will amass marketing books. I suppose I could say the same for courses. Don't buy things that you haven't made a plan for using. Don't buy things that you haven't made a plan for using. That's probably a really good life metric for whether or not to buy things. Particularly helpful, though, around marketing. All right. Next game-changing move for my business. And by the way, I'm going to save my most game-changing move for last. So this is the next to last. So my next game-changing move for my business was a commitment to consistency. And anybody who's been around me long enough knows that most coaches who don't make it because they are not consistent with particularly their marketing, but I would say in general, they are not consistent with the things they need to be doing overall for their coaching to be a viable business. So whether they are neglecting themselves personally or neglecting themselves professionally, and by the way, not marketing consistently is neglecting yourself professionally. It is officially not doing the job itself. That is part of the job if you are going to be a coach. But most coaches who don't make it, it's because they aren't consistent in some pretty big areas. So a game-changing move I made was, again, similar to what I've said about other things. It's not about whether or not I feel like the marketing that needs to be done. This is my job. This is part of me getting my work out into the world. This is part of me living my purpose. And there is no way that I am going to be out of integrity with myself or sell myself short or play small by not being consistent when consistency is what's required. It's what's required. And consistency is not, I'm consistent for 6 months, and if I don't see big financial returns, I get discouraged and I quit. That's a temper tantrum. That's a big FU to, I didn't get the expectation that I wanted. That's grief. That's disappointment. That's feeling like a failure. And I have enormous compassion for all of those feelings because they are all expressions of someone who has just hit some kind of an edge, a limit. But I beg of you, please transcend the limit. Consistency is a requirement of this job. It's part of the work. If you are getting into coaching because you just want to have freedom to do whatever you want at all times, I don't know what job anywhere is going to give you that. Coaching is going to require that you show up with at least some consistency. Now, here's the good news about consistency in this age of coaching. There are about a bajillion scheduling tools that are out there. So I am not hooked to social media at all times. I am not sitting at my computer 24/7 watching as a new blog post goes up. I am recording this Craft of Coaching episode far before it is going to go live to anybody. So when I talk about consistency, I'm not saying you have to be chained to your computer all the time so that you can be consistent. I'm saying there has to be some level of consistent presence from you. So personally, my consistency tools include a scheduler. So I have an editorial calendar, and editorial calendar is such a fancy word, right? What are we really talking about? We're talking about a document or a spreadsheet that basically says this post or podcast episode or webinar promo or whatever it is you want to put out there. This piece of content is going to go live on this day. Google Drive, people, also free. You do not have to have a fancy editorial calendar. I don't. So Google Drive, open up a Word doc, open that Pages file, whatever it is you want. Editorial calendar on this day, this is going to go live. And in the Coaching Blueprint Planner, which is a free planner that you can get if you go to coachingblueprint.com and sign up to be a subscriber. In the Coaching Blueprint Planner, I actually have a little editorial calendar added to each month so that you can say, okay, this type of content is going to go live on this day. And then you are tracking it in some way. And then you can schedule it. Hootsuite, Buffer, Later. There are all of these different options that are out there. And you basically just upload your image, type what you want to say to go with the image, select which social media account you want it to go to, and it goes live at the appointed time. So then, frankly, I look at that as then I just get to show up for the fun part, which is when somebody responds to a post that's gone live on Instagram and says, I've been struggling with this thing. Thank you for this post. Yay, that bit of connection. That's the part that's the most fun about marketing, is this opportunity to connect. So I schedule everything in advance, and then all I need to do is show up for the fun stuff. So that, and then it's consistent. Monday through Friday, you're getting something from me most days, most of the time. Consistency is also something I've needed to do, and this is harder for me, around newsletters. And my, what I realized was my big hang up around newsletters was that my own feelings of, my inbox, it's a lot. My own feelings of, my inbox is a lot, were translating to me feeling hesitant to send out a newsletter because I didn't want to add to anybody else's inbox. I don't know if that would be codependent or just control issues, worrying too much about what other people are going through, but somehow it just had to get in my head that if people are signing up for my newsletters, then they must want to hear from me. So why don't I just deliver that? So I got consistent about that as well. Another thing that I think people need to get consistent about, coaches in particular, is organization. And that has been an edge for me. If you had asked me prior to 2018 if I was an organized person, I would have said, no, organization isn't my thing. I love those organized people over there who are so great at having it together and being organized. Too bad that I'm just not one of those people. It's just not how I am. If I'm really honest, I think I had something of a too cool for school thing. Like I was going to be too cool to be all organized. But it was having an impact on my team. It was having an impact on my team to need to email me to request things rather than me just having everything in one set place where they could access it easily. It was impacting my stress levels. Speaking of inboxes, in 2018, I really committed to organization. I sat my ass down and I organized my inbox. I had 33,000 emails in my inbox. Like I just never categorized them. I know the uber or organized among us. I would now identify as an organized person, but back then I did not. But the people who are really organized, who get a little panicky when people around them are not organized, are probably listening to me talk about 33,000 emails in my inbox. They were read. I responded to a lot of them in my defense, but 33,000 emails were just sitting in the inbox section of my email. And I finally sat down, and it took me like a month. I chipped away at it little by little, and it took me like a month. But man, oh man, I used those Gmail filters and I got everything tucked into its correct place. And I have never let it go back to anywhere near that. I think I have like 50 emails in my inbox right now. And that's it. Everything else is sorted. Everything else is responded to. Or in the case of unsolicited, bad cold call pitches, quietly left alone. And I mean, it makes such a huge difference, but I have to be consistent about things like cleaning out my inbox. You got to be consistent. I had to finally just roll up my sleeves and say, this is what it takes to run a high level coaching business. This is what it takes. I've either got to hire people to basically nanny me and babysit me and handle everything I don't want to handle, or I've got to actually suit up and show up. And I chose the latter, largely in part, not because I couldn't have ever hired anyone to nanny me and babysit me and all of that, but because I knew that I was out of integrity on some level in not just deciding to put the time in. Now that I've cleared inbox zero before, the emails that are there are not too terribly stressful. And I'm very grateful for that. All right, so the last thing, and I've kind of alluded to it, but I actually believe that this is the biggest game-changing move I've made in my business, and it is no more of this BS around, I'm just not the kind of person who, I don't know, I'm not really comfortable with when it comes to visibility. Now, anyone in the Courageous Living Coach certification is going to be going, what? Kate? You had to do some work around visibility? Because I support all of our trainees and our graduates in being visible. And I talk to them about the places where they hesitate to be visible. And as it happens, the places where a new coach has more of an edge around visibility is a place I'm already comfortable. I have issues with visibility in a different way. So when I'm training and working with new and emerging coaches, visibility, just hitting publish on a website feels really big. And that isn't so much something that feels big for me. My edge has largely been around audio and video. It took me 2 hours just to do the basic recording of my first ever podcast episode. 2 hours, because I'd start and I'd stop and I'd get uncertain about what I wanted to say. That those episodes also had like very detailed outlines. I was like, okay, we've got practically like being in English class again or something. Here's my topic sentence. Here's my subtopic. Here's my citation for the subtopic. I mean, I was like nerding out with this. Had to have my notes in front of me, had to have a really specific outline. Took me 2 hours. Any little hesitation in my voice, I'd go back, oh gosh, I can't stumble over a word. I've got to stop and re-record all that. Now, if I stutter or stumble, I'm mostly just going, if somebody is listening to this podcast only if it is perfect at all times, you're listening to the wrong podcast. You're going to need to find another one. Hopefully you listen because you like the ideas that I present. So the visibility has been around things like audio where there are more mistakes, and it also feels more intimate when you can hear my voice. And then video. I mean, I rock my athleisure, people, and I don't see myself as somebody who has to be all dolled up in order to appear on camera somewhere. And, I feel a little self-conscious when people can see my face. And I did this thing for a long time. I'm such an introvert. It's just because I'm an introvert. I prefer not to be on. Why don't I'll just stick to writing and it's fine. No. Let's be real. Like this is kind of when I sit down and have a little come to Jesus with myself, it sounds a little bit like this in my head. Like, Kate, let's be real. You just don't want to do this, not because you're a certain kind of person, but because you're uncomfortable. But the reality is that I love other people's podcasts and I love other people's videos and I wanted to do those things too, but then I'd feel the resistance. And for a long time, I was not willing to face the resistance. And finally, I just went, face the resistance, Kate. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I mean, again, what's the worst that really can happen with any of our videos, audios, podcasts, webinars, all of that we put out into the world? I'm asking this of you now, the listener. What's the worst that can happen? Somebody doesn't like it? Okay, so they go somewhere else on the internet. There's a gazillion other places they can be. Oh, they might send you a nasty email? Well, I'm pretty fortunate. I get very, very few of those. And when I do, to be honest, my reaction is that person who sent me that email must be suffering terribly if the thing they thought was going to be the best use of their time for the day was to send an email that was unkind. People who feel good about who they are and where they're at in their lives don't spend time sending angry emails. And I can say that about myself too. The only time I've ever sent angry emails has been when I've been in a bad place. Let me tell you, when I've got a tech issue, I have to push the computer away and go do something else because I know that is the moment when if I'm in a frustrated tech issue and I am not in a good place, that is the moment when I'm going to want to type a nasty email to a tech support person. And in fact, I try to restore my karma on a regular basis by being as gracious as I can possibly be when writing tech support emails now to make up for all the times when I have sent a really flippant, condescending, or flat out irritated tech support email because something is not working the way it is supposed to work. So bottom line here, you got to get outside your comfort zone. It is a game-changing move to decide that what you want your life to stand for, the business you are trying to create, and frankly, the work you're trying to do to make the world a better place through coaching, however you are doing that, all of that is more important than any way that anyone might react to what it is that you are creating and putting out in the world. So it really, if you think about it, when I watch a YouTube video that's really helpful or really like what the person's having to say, or if I listen to a TED Talk, I'm not thinking about what the person's wearing. I'm not thinking about the person's weight. I'm just listening to the ideas and I'm either moved by them or I'm not. When I read a book or when I read a blog post or when I listen to a podcast, again, same thing. I'm only thinking about how the idea impacts my life, how I might use it. And if the idea isn't one that I find useful, I let it go and I go on to the next thing. And there are plenty of people that I follow online where I don't like all their ideas. I don't agree with all their ideas, but there are others that I do. And that's fine. Really, I kind of look at it like, being a fan of a particular actor or being a fan of a particular band. You don't have to like every movie that they're in. You don't have to like every album that they put out. But the ones you do like, you enjoy. Great. And that's how people, I'm sure, receive my work. And that's how I'm sure you receive the work of others too. So really what it all boils down to is, are you willing to play outside of your comfort zone in the name of being able to say confidently, I am living the life that I want to live. I am not letting fear get in my way. That's really what it all boils down to. Frankly, I think all of these game-changing moves boil down to that on some level. Am I going to set goals and actually be accountable to taking action towards those goals? Because that's what this is going to require. Am I willing to meditate and exercise rather than making excuses about why I'm not doing it? Because that's how I perform optimally. Am I going to set in those positive constraints? Or am I going to do a whole dramatic thing about, I just don't feel like it. This feels so heavy. Like I'm done with that. It's never gotten me anywhere but drama to indulge a lot of time in the justifications and excuses for why I'm not doing the things I know I need to be doing in my life. There's a commitment to consistency that needs to be there, playing outside your comfort zone. And the best part of all of this, to me, is that it's transferable to anywhere in my life. It's transferable to anywhere in my life. If somehow 10 years from now, I am no longer a coach or an author or a speaker or the director of a training program, I will still be using these skills in some other way. I think there is a real value in deciding that you are 100% in the game of what it's going to take to get to your dream. You will always be able to look your own two eyes in the mirror and really let yourself feel proud if you know that you did what it takes, what this requires. And then the best news of all is that while at first it feels really hard to commit to consistency, to commit to meditation and exercise, to commit to being outside your comfort zone, to really stay with those annual, quarterly goals and make progress, at first that all feels like, whoa. And then you adjust to it and it's just like, whatever. It's fine. Like, oh yeah, I've got an appointment to sit down and look at my goals for this week. Got it. No big deal. No pressure. Yeah. It's 2:00 in the afternoon as I'm recording this podcast episode. I always work out at 4:00. That's when I'm going to be working out. So in about 2 hours, that's when I'm going to be doing it. Yeah, there you go. It doesn't feel hard anymore, mostly because the positive constraints and the commitment totally take away the drama. All right, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Before you go, would you help us out and take a moment to give us a rating in iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening? It really helps us get the word out to other listeners. And before you go today, would you like free resources to support your coaching journey? Whether you're considering becoming a coach or you want advanced coach skills training, access our coaching resource library at teamclcc.com. Again, that's teamclcc.com. Can't wait to connect with you. And again, thanks for listening.